Hey folks, take a look at this. This is what we in Texas call barbecue. This is a brisket that has been smoked for 6.5 hours, finished up in an oven so it became beautiful and tender. Look at that beautiful red band around it. That means it's well smoked, okay? Give this recipe a try. You're gonna love fixing your meat this way. Beautiful flavor. Hey, welcome back to Texas Cooking Today. Hey guys, today we're going to be discussing smoking meat. Now, this brings out flavors, unbelievable flavors. Barbecue is what we're going to be making here. When you take a piece of meat and you bring it up in temperature slowly, you're using low heat, like 200 to 250 degrees in that bracket. So you've got this low heat, you've got lots of smoke going on to create flavor. When you're cooking this way, what you're making is barbecue. Now, barbecue isn't grilling. Barbecue is not a grill. Barbecue is meat that's prepared in this very special way. Let's take a look at all these goodies that I have here, and let's make some real barbecue. Okay guys, now these wonderful items I have sitting out here. I wanted to do a full intro on all that we're going to be using here because this is simple. We have something that we're going to smoke. I've got a big old slab of beef. It's brisket, okay? Now if you ever wanted to know what real Texas barbecue is, what really defines Texas barbecue, it would have to be the smoked brisket because, we'll get into what the brisket is here in just a little bit, but it's a cut of meat that lends itself to really long cooking. And so it makes perfect barbecue because it allows the meat to stay in the smoke for many hours longer than most meats can be in there. The flavor that we're going to be using, of course, when you're making barbecue, you're smoking using wood. I go and purchase these chunks of wood. They usually sell these things right next to where you find the charcoal. If you go to a supermarket, grocery store, you'll find these things. And the ones I'm using are mesquite. If you want a distinctly Texas flavor, that's mesquite. And one of the reasons is, this is a weed tree, okay? That's what we call it. This tree has a bite that's far worse than its bark. It has thorns on it that are about 2.5 to 3 inches long. They're woody, they're hard, and they will slice you open like a razor blade if you get near them. It's all over Texas. It grows in areas where other trees simply don't grow, and thus this has become one of the distinct flavors in Texas barbecue. For the fuel to fire this, we're going to be using an offset smoker, and I'm going to be using charcoal. You can use regular wood logs if you want. I like charcoal because of the size of it. A small amount of this provides a lot of heat for a long period of time. I'm using a mesquite barbecue, a mesquite charcoal. If you get just plain ordinary charcoal, that's actually oak flavored. They also have hickory flavored. There's a lot of different kinds of charcoal that are out there, apple wood. All of them produce a distinct and wonderful flavor. However, today we're talking about Texas barbecue here. We're going to stick with a distinctly Texas flavor. We're going to go with that mesquite. The meat. The piece I have chosen here is what they call Black Angus. Now, Black Angus, the only way you can get the name Black Angus on a package, like what you see here, Black Angus, is for that particular cow has to come up to a grade of choice or better in order to be called Black Angus. Select meat doesn't qualify for that label. So even though the cow may have been Black Angus, when they cut in between the 12th and 13th rib to grade the cow, that's how they do it. They look at how much fat's there. The USDA inspector will say, okay, this cow is this grade, and he'll grade it as select, choice, or prime. When he does that, if it is select, it does not get to bear the name Black Angus, even though it came from that cow. It has to be choice or better. Now this one I've gotten is choice. We're looking at 14.5 pounds of brisket here. So you'll know what a brisket is. Brisket is the pectoral muscle, essentially, of the cow. From his neck, the lower neck, wrapping down over his part of his chest, the upper part of his chest, is the cut called the brisket, okay? And that's what I have here. This came from right next to his front leg there. And that's where that muscle rides. So that's what we're going to be cooking up. There's 2 of those per cow. Believe it or not, that's a big chunk of meat. Now, brisket, you might be thinking, wow, that's really fatty. Wow, that's really tough. And you're right. It's an extremely tough piece of meat. It's a very fatty cut of meat. And that's the advantage. In this particular type of cooking, when you're smoking, you want a piece of meat that can handle long cooking. Hey, you can leave a brisket under heat for 12 hours and it's still good and juicy. What we're going to be doing is smoking this for about 6 hours, maybe a little longer, but I'm looking for a deep penetration of smoke. I'm looking for my pink or red band. And what that is, when you see that on the outside of real barbecue, that band that soaks into that meat, what that is, that's the actual meat's real color. Red meat is red, okay? What happens is when you're burning wood, you're creating all this smoke, it releases nitrates, okay? That the tannins in the wood burning, they release a lot of nitrates. Those nitrates act like a preservative with a certain protein called myoglobin. Now, myoglobin is the protein in red meat that causes it to be red, okay? So what it's doing is it's acting as a preservative to the myoglobin. That's pretty neat to know, isn't it? And that's where you get that red band. We're looking for a good, deep red band on this, and the only way to get that is really low temperatures and a whole lot of smoke. The more smoke I can produce, the better the barbecue is going to be. I'm not in a rush to cook this thing. It can sit out there and smoke for many, many hours. If I wanted to smoke it, like I said before, for 12 hours, you can do that. What we're going to be doing is using an old-fashioned type of smoker. It's called an offset smoker. Now, if you don't have one of these, if all you have is a charcoal grill, gas grill even, there are ways of smoking on those, okay? You can still put your wood chips on a pan over a single burner in a gas grill and let those wood chips smolder in that pan while your meat sits off to the side. And the way you do that is you would use a pan like this, and you can put some pan racks in the bottom of it to bring the meat up, allowing smoke to get up underneath that pan. So you have a pan rack there, a couple of them. Put your meat right up on top of this. You can even put a little water in this, and it's wonderful. It keeps the meat moisture. It also allows smoke to penetrate all the way around. So you can do this on your gas grill. You can also use this same setup on a kettle grill that's round, you know, that you can't normally smoke in because the fire's right under the meat. Do it this way, you can smoke, okay? I've got 2 things to do. I've got a fire to start, and we have a brisket to trim up a little bit. You know, if you get a brisket after it's cooked and it's got this big old thick chunk of fat hanging off of it, that's disgusting, okay? Now, some people that love fat, well, they'll chastise me for this, but guess what? Only a certain amount of that tallow can actually render through the meat. And I don't want any more on the outside of the meat than can evenly render through it in the amount of time I'm going to be cooking. I want this meat done in 8 hours. We're starting this morning. This is for an evening meal. Let's get on, let's make some fire and trim a brisket. Okay guys, we're out here with my smoker. There's plenty of background noise, but that's typical in Dallas. It's a typical Dallas morning at about 95 degrees, so it's hot. The lower box that you see here, this one here, this is what's called a fire box. That's where you want your heat to be. That's where we're going to create all of the smoke. The smoke will then travel up into this larger box where it will surround the meat and produce a very good flavored food for us. What we want to use with that, right here we have our chimney starter. Do not use starter fluid. Do not use match light charcoal. It'll make your barbecue taste like kerosene. I mean, that's really gross too. Anytime I've ever tasted barbecue that was started with charcoal lighter, it tasted awful every single time. So what you want to do is light it naturally, and I have a chimney starter here, and in the bottom I have some newspaper that's just wadded up and shoved in there, and I'm going to take my lighter and light it up. Here's another jet coming overhead. Good old Dallas. Right here, this is a pan that I have out here, not to put the meat on. I've got this pan out here for the sole purpose of putting water in, and I want to keep it down in the bottom of the smoker, and it's just going to gently release moisture into the air as I cook. It'll also catch drippings from the meat as well. Now it's going to produce a lot of smoke. What I'm looking for is for the top of the charcoal to start turning white, and when it does, I'm going to dump it into my firebox, and we're going to get cooking. Okay guys, our charcoal is heating up. Let's go ahead and get this thing processed. Here it is, fat side up. Now I'll tell you what, there's a lot of Texans and a lot of people who have cooked these things up that are going to swear to you, never remove any of that fat. They'll say keep every bit of it. Oh, it's going to make that meat taste good. You know what? They're right. The fat's going to make that meat taste really good. However, this big, thick clump of fat right here that's about an inch deep. Wow. I mean, there's a knife cut right there. Look at that. That's over a ½ inch deep, and it's nothing but solid fat there. I want a layer of fat to render through the meat, but I don't want it to be ridiculous. So a big chunk like this, simply unneeded. If you're going to make a cut like this, remember, watch out for that blade. Remember we were talking about how the nitrates in the smoke react with the meat? Well, they react with the meat because the smoke comes in contact with it. If you don't get good contact with your smoke, well, you're not going to get that smoky flavor. Now, I don't want fat that's flavored like smoke, frankly. There's the end of my meat. This is a good example of why big cutting boards are nice. We're putting this side up. Why? Well, it's easy. We want the fat to flow through the meat. It can't do that from the bottom. Now, looks beautiful. Good band of fat from my edge. Thick enough for the meat on top there. This is the bottom right here. I just need to get this on the grill. A big old honking cow pectoral muscle. Okay, now I have placed all of my wood in warm water and I'm soaking it. Okay, as you can see, from the top of our charcoal, it's starting to ash over, and that's just perfect. Watch out, this can burn you. There we go. Something that you're going to need while you're out here are some tongs. That way you can reach down in your fire pit and work. Now you're going to want an extra long tong too. Now I'm going to take some of the wood that I have in my water. Remember that? We're going to place it around the sides, not directly on the fire. And it'll sit there and smolder and produce wonderful smoke for us. Sucker's just a little bit warm. Okay. Pan in the bottom, right in the center. Go ahead and put your grate back on. And remember, we needed to fill that pan. This is where you get to wash off that grate. There you go. Meat, fat side up. Big side towards the heat. On your chimney up above, keep it wide open at all times. Keep your firebox lid closed, and on the side, there's an air damper. Open that up, and I'm gonna open the door just a little bit. My model works better when I keep that about an inch open. Each one of these has their own little quirks. You just gotta figure out yours. What I'm looking for on that little temperature gauge down there, we're looking for this temperature right in here. 200 degrees is perfect. It's smack dead on where you want it to be. Now guys, this is really simple. At this point, it's just a matter of waiting, okay? Now every 30 minutes, go out and check that fire as you need it. You might need to add some wood. You might need to add some charcoal. The charcoal, remember, you're using that for heat. So keep plenty in there so that it keeps producing good heat. You want to keep it right about 200 degrees. Also, keep yourself plenty of the wood soaking, and any time that it starts or stops putting out good smoke, go down there, add a little more wood around the perimeter, and just keep that thing billowing a nice steady stream of smoke. Once every 30 minutes, check that fire. Now guys, I just pulled this brisket in from the smoker. It has been out there smoking for 6.5 hours. Now look inside of this. You see how that is pink looking here? Kind of red, almost like it's raw. It's not raw. Believe me, this is cooked. This is quite cooked. I'm about to finish tenderizing it up in the oven. It's only going to take another 1.5 hours, maybe at the most 2 hours. It's going to come out so tender and soft. Before I put it in that oven, I want to add a little water. Now I have flipped that roast over. Look, even the fat side is beautiful. Well guys, this was just pulled out of the oven, and it has been almost 10 hours of cooking total. 6.5 on the smoke, and the rest of that time was in the oven. I was wanting fork tender. Look at that. That fork slides out easy. We have our beef pulled out of the pan. I was getting ready to carve it. So I'm going to start at this tip here. That's just flat beautiful right there, folks. Look at that beautiful pink band all the way around. The absolute mark of a beautiful, perfectly cooked brisket. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Well, it was a day of lots of smoke. Look at the beautiful red band on that. Just the way it should be. Distinct red. That means that this, look at that. I don't know why I bothered with that. Oh man. I'll tell you what. Smoky flavor, beefy. The characteristics of this are unbelievable, and you just can't understand it until you've actually done one. So please pick yourself up a brisket, try making some Texas barbecue, find out what it's all about for yourself. This, I don't need barbecue sauce on, not at all. I'll enjoy a little of the au jus that comes with it. That's all I need. Hey guys, thank you very much for watching this episode of Texas Cooking Today. And thank you to my subscribers. Thank you very much for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed, well, please do. And one other favor, please share my videos. You folks, you have a good day. Hey guys, thank you for watching Texas Cooking Today. Do appreciate it. If you would, please subscribe. If you like this, just click like down there, and if you would, I would really appreciate it if you add me to your favorites. Thank you.